There's a quiet kind of peace that comes when you stop waiting to be seen and start seeing yourself. That morning, as the sunlight caught the bloom I'd almost given up on, I realized healing doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it arrives in the softest moments, unasked for, but finally yours. In families, love can get tangled in expectations. But the people who care for us quietly, without needing praise, deserve to be heard too. We don't need to fix everything to be worthy of a seat at the table. We just need to stand in our truth. If this story reminded you of someone you love, or someone you used to be, I'd be honored to hear what it brought up for you. You're always welcome to share, reflect, or just sit with it a while. I always thought my 18th birthday would feel different. A line in the sand. A moment of crossing over from girlhood into something more solid, more mine. I imagined a clean break. No more borrowed things, no more silence eaten like dinner. Just me, a legal adult, a trust fund my grandparents left behind, and the open road of possibilities. But the morning sun came in soft and yellow, just like any other, and the house smelled of fried chicken reheated from yesterday's deli leftovers. My birthday balloons, 3 of them, were taped limply to the fridge. No cake on the counter, no laughter, just the slow squeak of my fork against an empty plate. "Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "I want to talk about the trust." The clatter of silverware stopped. Dad looked down at his scrambled eggs. My sisters, Gloria and Lori, stared into their coffee like it held the secrets of the universe. Mom didn't look at me. "We can talk at dinner," she said flatly, folding a paper towel into smaller squares like it was a game. "After everyone's home." I nodded, even though I hated the way her voice curled at the end like a threat wrapped in politeness. The day dragged. I spent it pacing my bedroom, glancing at the old birthday card from Grandma still pinned to my corkboard. "Lena, this is your bridge to whatever you dream. Love, always." At dinner, they lit a single candle stuck in a half-melted chocolate cupcake. I didn't care about the cupcake. I wanted the truth. Dad cleared his throat as everyone settled in. His voice was careful, like someone trying not to set off an alarm. "We wanted to talk to you about the trust." I folded my hands in my lap. "Okay, how much is left?" A pause. Then Mom said, "A little under $7,000. I blinked. "Out of 120? No one answered. The only sound was the hum of the air conditioner. Outside, the summer air pressed thick against the windows. "Gloria had that DUI, Dad started. "The legal stuff was expensive. And Lori needed help with daycare," Mom added quickly. "Plus, there were rent issues when your sisters moved back in, medical bills, groceries. The store's been hard," Dad finished. "You know how it is." I stared at my plate. Lukewarm lemonade sat untouched beside my elbow. The birthday cake I'd hoped for never even entered the room. "I didn't spend that money," I said. "I didn't drop out of college or have kids I couldn't afford or crash a car after drinking." "It's not about blame," Mom said tightly. "Yes," I replied, my voice sharper than I expected. "It is." The air shifted. Lori flinched, just barely. Gloria blinked slowly like this was all some drama she'd already seen the ending to. No one apologized. No one said thank you for the years I worked double shifts while they played catch-up on the dreams they burned through. "I didn't know I wasn't your daughter anymore," I said. "I thought I was, but now I realize I was just your backup plan." I stood. My chair scraped the tile with a screech. "Sit down," Mom said, not unkindly, but with a firmness that had always meant obey. "I'm done sitting," I said. Dad reached for my wrist. I pulled away. "I'll go," I whispered. "I'll leave so you can finish the meal." "Lena!" Gloria started, but I was already gone. In the hallway, my breath came fast. The porch light flickered overhead, insects buzzing around it like they knew more than we did. I didn't cry. Not then. I was too stunned. Too hollowed out. That night, I packed a duffel bag. Clothes, toothbrush, the old card from Grandma. Everything else could rot. I stood in my doorway for one last second, staring at the family photo on the hall wall, Mom smiling like she wasn't hiding anything, Dad with his hand on my shoulder like he was proud. Then I turned out the light and left. No destination, no plan. Just a single thought beating in my chest like a second heart. They stole from me, and now they expect me to smile about it. Not this time. It's amazing how quiet the world becomes when you're no longer useful to the people you once called family. It wasn't just the silence of no calls or messages. It was the kind that hung in your lungs, thick and unspoken, like a question no one was brave enough to answer. I felt it most in the mornings, those first few minutes before the world caught up to my thoughts, where for a breath, I forgot everything and then remembered it all at once. I moved into a cramped 3-bedroom apartment in Philadelphia with 2 other girls I barely knew. My room was barely big enough for a mattress and a folding table that doubled as my desk. The walls were so thin you could hear someone sneeze 2 doors down. We took turns cooking, though cooking was a stretch. Most nights it was dollar ramen or frozen pizza. But it was mine. My life. Built from scratch, like a puzzle no one wanted to help me finish. Rachel, my roommate, was tall, messy, and had a way of speaking like she didn't care what you thought, because she didn't. She once told me, while folding laundry in the living room, that family was just a lottery. Sometimes you win. Sometimes you get a scratch card that tells you to try again. I didn't laugh, but I remembered it. Freelance design gigs kept me afloat. I juggled them alongside classes at a community college. It was exhausting, balancing deadlines and exams and rent payments that always seemed a little too high. But every dollar I earned felt clean, untouched. No one could take it and claim they were doing it for the family. My 19th birthday came and went without so much as a card. Rachel surprised me with a cupcake from the gas station across the street and a single candle made from a broken crayon she melted into the frosting. We sat on the fire escape, watching the streetlights buzz to life. My phone buzzed once that night, a voicemail from my mother. "Hey, sweetie, we're thinking of you. Happy birthday. Call us if you want." I deleted it before it finished. That was the year I learned how to be alone without being lonely. Or at least, I tried. I walked past families in the park and felt a tug in my chest. But I kept walking. One afternoon, Rachel and I cleaned out the fridge. She held up a container of fuzzy leftovers with a grimace. "Bet your family misses your cooking." I froze. "Sorry," she added quickly. "That was dumb." "No," I said. "It wasn't. They probably don't. They only noticed me when I was useful." That night, I dreamt of Dad teaching me how to fix a flat tire in the driveway. He smiled, grease smudged across his cheek. Back then, I thought he was showing me how to be independent. Now, it just felt like a setup. I tried therapy once. Walked into a brightly lit office where a woman in a cozy sweater asked me how I was doing. "Fine," I said. We sat in silence for a full minute. I didn't go back. The holidays arrived like an uninvited guest. Christmas lights blinked from every storefront, pretending everything was magical. I avoided the mailbox until it overflowed. In the pile was a familiar envelope. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. My mother's cursive always leaned slightly right, like it was trying to escape the page. I didn't open it, didn't need to. The message was always the same. "We love you. Come back." No mention of what they did. No real apology. Just noise dressed up as affection. I threw it away. On New Year's Eve, Rachel and I sat on the roof, wrapped in mismatched blankets, a bottle of cheap cider between us. Fireworks cracked in the distance. "What's your resolution?" she asked. I looked up at the sky, at the empty space between explosions. "Next year," I said softly, "I rise." And I meant it. Because silence is only peaceful when it comes with freedom. The silence I had now? It was just a placeholder. But not for long. Love doesn't always arrive with flowers and fireworks. Sometimes it begins with a coffee order you didn't have to repeat. That's how it started with Nathan. A simple cup, 1 cream, no sugar, handed to me without a word at the end of a networking mixer in a drafty downtown event hall. I hadn't even noticed him listening when I ordered it half an hour earlier, but there he was, watching me quietly with a gentle kind of awareness that didn't feel like pressure. Just presence. The year was 2020. The world was slowing down, and in some ways, that gave me the permission I didn't know I needed. To rebuild, to get quiet, to grow without an audience. My freelance design work had started to click after years of piecing together small gigs. I'd finally moved out of shared apartments and into a modest 1-bedroom unit in Pittsburgh. Clean walls, a creaky window with a view of an alley, and a coffee table that I sanded and painted myself over one slow weekend. The kind of space that didn't ask much but gave me room to breathe. Rachel and I still kept in touch. Texts, weekend brunches, occasional vent sessions over nachos and cheap margaritas. She'd moved in with her boyfriend in the suburbs, but always made time to check in. When I told her about the guy from the mixer, she raised an eyebrow over her glass and smirked. He remembered your coffee order? Okay, that's either creepy or charming. Possibly both. I wasn't sure either. But I texted him back anyway. Nathan was different. He didn't try to fill silences with stories about himself or ask questions that felt like small talk traps. He was a videographer, mostly weddings and events, sometimes small business promos, steady work, creative enough to keep him engaged but not so demanding that it took over his life. He was kind in ways that weren't showy, sending me playlists on rough days, walking me home when it rained, never once making me feel like I owed him my time. We built something slowly, with room to make mistakes. The first time I told him about the trust fund was on a Thursday night, sitting on the floor of my apartment eating greasy takeout noodles. He didn't flinch, just listened. Didn't ask why I hadn't cut them off sooner, didn't press for every awful detail. He simply nodded and said, "That sounds like it hurt for a long time." And then he passed me the last dumpling without a word. The next morning, I opened my voicemail. There was one saved message, my mother's voice, brittle and trying too hard to sound soft. "Hi, sweetie. I know things have been tense, but I just wanted to say I miss you. Maybe we could talk?" That message had lived in my phone for 3 years, not because I believed it meant anything, but because deleting it felt like closing a door I wasn't sure I was allowed to lock. Nathan found me staring at the phone, my thumb hovering over the screen. He didn't ask what I was doing, just wrapped an arm around my waist and said gently, "You don't owe them closure if it costs your peace." I hit delete. Grief isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the silence after a long-held breath, the way your body slumps without realizing it was bracing. I leaned into him then, let my cheek rest against his chest and whispered, "Thank you." Life began to feel different after that. Not easier, just more mine. I spent mornings sketching logo drafts by the window, afternoons in virtual meetings with clients, and evenings cooking with Nathan. He was terrible at following recipes, but excellent at pretending he didn't know I was better at chopping onions. We argued sometimes, about nothing serious, but we argued like people who knew it wouldn't end us. When spring rolled around again, the sunlight in our apartment changed. Softer, warmer. One night, Nathan came home with a small box tucked into his coat pocket and a smile that made my heart stumble. He didn't kneel right away, just sat beside me on the couch, fingers tracing mine, and said, "I know your past is yours, and your healing is yours too. But if you ever want a future that's ours, I'd be honored to build it with you." Then he opened the box. No diamonds. Just a plain silver band, a little imperfect like us. My voice caught before my tears did. I nodded. "Let's build something no one else gets to touch." That night, I rearranged the furniture, literally, moved the bookshelf into a new corner, swapped out the art on the walls, even changed the drawer I kept my socks in. Rachel laughed when she came by the next day. "You redecorate every time your life shifts. It's like watching you rebuild your brain through furniture." Maybe she was right. But for once, it didn't feel like I was rebuilding out of fear. It felt like planting, like clearing space for something that would grow. I didn't tell my family about the engagement. Not yet. Some roots, I decided, weren't worth saving. But this could be a new tree entirely. The betrayal didn't come with a scream. It came with a confession. It was a Wednesday evening, the kind where everything felt oddly still. The rain had quieted into a drizzle, tapping gently against the kitchen window like it was trying to apologize for something it hadn't done. Nathan was making tea, chamomile for me, Earl Grey for him. I was folding laundry at the table, pairing socks and smoothing out the same t-shirt twice, lost in the kind of silence that wraps itself around your shoulders like a damp blanket. "I need to tell you something," he said, without turning around. I paused mid-fold. The words came out too soft, too careful. "Okay," I said cautiously. "What's going on?" He turned then, his hand wrapped around the warm ceramic of his mug like it could anchor him. "Your mom reached out to me. On Facebook, I didn't breathe." "It started months ago," he added quickly. I didn't know how to bring it up. She messaged after we got engaged. I blinked, stunned. You talked to her? He nodded. I met her, and your sisters, at a diner. The air shifted. The hum of the refrigerator suddenly felt loud. The steam from his mug curled up between us like a curtain. When? Last fall. October. That was 5 months ago. 5 months of ordinary mornings, shared playlists, Sunday grocery runs, and all this time, he'd been carrying a secret wrapped in sentiment. Why? I asked, my voice quieter than I meant it to be. Nathan sat across from me, placing his mug down like he was afraid it might break. She reached out saying she just wanted to make peace. Said she didn't want to miss your wedding. She already missed my life, I muttered. I know. But she cried, Lena. Your sisters, too. They said they didn't know about the money, that it wasn't their call. I swallowed hard. And you believed them? I wanted to believe that if there was a way to heal this, maybe I could help you find it. But I didn't ask you to, I snapped, before I could stop myself. He winced. I know. I thought I could fix something. Maybe for you. Maybe for us. I stood and walked to the sink, needing something to do. I rinsed a plate, then rinsed it again and again. My fingers turned prune while my thoughts unraveled. Trust doesn't always break with thunder. Sometimes it just quietly stops showing up. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just kept washing the same plate until Nathan came up behind me and touched my shoulder. I should have told you sooner, he whispered. Yes, I said, not turning around. You should have. A long silence. Then he said, I'm not defending them. I don't even like them. But I saw how you still flinch when you see their name in your inbox. I thought if I could soften the edge, maybe. His voice cracked. I turned finally. What did they say? They talked about the past like it was a misunderstanding. Your mom? She begged me to invite her. Said it was her right. That you're still her daughter. I'm not, I said firmly. Not anymore. Nathan nodded slowly. I told her I'd talk to you. I wasn't planning to hide it forever. I just didn't want this to ruin the wedding. A sharp laugh escaped me. So you thought I'd smile through her sitting in the front row like nothing happened? I messed up, he said simply. And he had. But I saw the guilt in his eyes. Not the defensive kind, but the hollow one. The kind that settles in your chest and echoes. I forgive you, I said eventually, but this changes things. He looked up. How? She's not coming. If she shows up, I walk. I won't say a word. I won't make a scene. I'll just leave. His face tightened. She won't. I promise. I'm not asking you to promise for her. I'm asking you to understand that this is non-negotiable. Nathan nodded, solemn. I understand. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, watching shadows shift across the paint. Nathan's breathing was steady beside me. I could tell he wasn't asleep either. But we didn't speak. Some things are too sharp for words. When I woke the next morning, I opened the front door to grab the mail, and there it was. A letter. No envelope. Just a folded piece of cream stationery with my name scribbled in my mother's sharp, slanted handwriting. My stomach sank. I closed the door, placed the note on the counter like it might explode, and stared at it for a long time. I didn't want to open it. I didn't want to hear whatever version of the truth she was peddling now. Nathan walked into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. When he saw the letter, he stopped. Are you okay? No, I admitted. Want me to read it? I shook my head. Not yet. I made coffee while the note sat there like a ghost on the counter. The tulips Nathan had brought home last week, now half wilted, drooped toward it like they knew something I didn't. Eventually, I opened it. Just 5 words. I miss you every day. No apology. No mention of the trust. No acknowledgement of the pain. Just a soft, manipulative tug wrapped in sentiment. I folded the paper in half, then again, then dropped it into the trash can without another thought. Nathan reached for my hand, his fingers wrapping around mine. I'm with you, he said quietly. I know, I whispered. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was enough. You learn a lot about people by who they think deserves forgiveness. It was a warm June afternoon, the kind that hovered between spring's lingering gentleness and summer's growing impatience. Our small apartment smelled of cinnamon candles and hot glue. DIY centerpieces were scattered across the dining table, little mason jars filled with fake eucalyptus and fairy lights, still waiting for twine bows. The save-the-date cards had already gone out, and I was elbow-deep in a spreadsheet titled Seating Chart, Final, Seriously this time. I thought I had finally locked in our guest list. Tight, intentional, safe. Then came the knock. It wasn't a neighbor or the mail. I knew that knock. It was soft but expectant, as if it had practiced sounding casual. I opened the door and there they were, Gloria and Lori, each with a toddler tugging on their hands, a juice box in one and a stuffed animal in the other. "Hey," Gloria said, her smile too wide, too bright. "We were in the neighborhood," Lori added, as if Lancaster was 10 minutes away from Pittsburgh. I stepped aside. Out of habit? Out of politeness? I didn't know anymore. They walked in like they hadn't vanished for years and sat down as if this were any Saturday. "Cute place," Gloria said, glancing at the half-finished centerpieces. "Doing it all yourself?" "Yeah," I said. "Can't spend $10,000 on flowers when there's a college loan-sized hole in your trust fund." Her smile flickered. The kids played quietly in the corner. It felt surreal, watching them push toy trucks over our rug like this was some normal visit. It wasn't. "So," Lori said, clasping her hands, "we wanted to talk about Mom." I knew it. I let the silence stretch, daring them to fill it. Gloria cleared her throat. "Look, we know things got really messed up, but she's still Mom, and she's hurting." "She's hurting?" I said, more stunned than angry. "She stole from me." "She said it was temporary," Gloria whispered. I laughed. Not a bitter one, but tired. "Temporary? I had a lawyer check. There's less than $3,000 left in the trust. Out of 120. Lori looked down. "We didn't know that." "Exactly," I said. "You didn't ask. You didn't care enough to check. You just assumed someone else was footing the bill, like always." Their kids had started tugging at couch pillows. I didn't stop them. Let them build forts from the place their mom once helped tear down. "She regrets it," Gloria said. "She talks about you all the time." "Then let her talk," I said. "But not at my wedding." Lori reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. "She wrote this for you." I didn't touch it. "Lena," Gloria said gently, "people make mistakes. And some people keep making them because no one ever calls them out," I replied. I stood. They took the hint. The kids were gathered, juice boxes tossed. Gloria kissed my cheek on the way out. Lori didn't. After the door shut, I sat down and looked at the untouched envelope. I didn't open it. Nathan came home just as I was tossing it into the trash. He saw my face and didn't ask questions. Instead, he wrapped his arms around me from behind and whispered, "You don't owe anyone your peace." Later that evening, his parents called. I heard Nathan chatting cheerfully from the other room. Updates about the cake flavors, the officiant, a last-minute change to the welcome sign. Then his mom asked to speak to me. "Sweetheart," she said, her voice honey-warm. "I know we're not your real parents, but if you ever need another mom to lean on, well, you've got one." I blinked hard. "Thanks," I said, barely above a whisper. That night, I rewrote the guest list. Not literally, no new names, no changes in fonts. But I rewrote it in my mind. Who mattered, who didn't, who had shown up without conditions. Rachel texted a TikTok link the next morning. "Sorry to ruin your zen," she wrote. I clicked. It was Gloria. She was sitting in her car, fake tears streaming, backgrounded by a piano filter that tried too hard. The caption, "When your sister cuts your whole family out for one mistake. Family is forever." The comments made it worse. "She's probably just jealous. Wait till she has kids, she'll understand. Sounds like she needs therapy." One even said, "So what if the money's gone? You can't take it with you." I stared at the screen, heart pounding. That video got thousands of views in a few hours. She knew what she was doing. Rachel sent a follow-up text. "Want me to report it?" I typed back, "No. Let her be loud. I'll stay true." And yet, that night, I sat on the bathroom floor with the shower running just for noise. Not crying, not breaking down. Just still. Sometimes, silence is the loudest kind of heartbreak. But I'd been here before, and I wasn't going back. As I turned off the faucet, towel in hand, I looked in the mirror and repeated what I had promised myself months ago. She's not on the guest list. If she walks in, I walk out. And this time, it wasn't a threat. It was a promise. The aisle felt longer than it was, maybe because I wasn't just walking toward Nathan. I was walking away from them. Each step echoed louder than the soft instrumental music playing in the background, like the gravel beneath my flats was reminding me what it had taken to get here. The sun lit the countryside venue with the kind of golden hush that only shows up in late August. Wildflowers spilled from mason jars, tied with twine, resting on reclaimed wood tables. The breeze carried the scent of lavender and something grilled from the caterer's truck in the distance. It was the kind of day my mother might have called humble, in that tone she used when she meant not good enough. But it was perfect. Earlier that morning, I'd sat on the porch swing of our small rental cottage near the venue, cradling a chipped mug of coffee and watching the dew evaporate off the grass. Rachel stirred inside, rummaging for mascara or champagne. The bridesmaids weren't due for another hour. I took that quiet moment for myself, not to reflect on what I'd lost, but on what I had built. There was no envelope waiting, no call, no surprise visit, just silence. And in that silence, peace. Rachel found me eventually, her hair still in rollers, holding a plate of dry toast like it was a prize. If you eat something now, you won't faint mid-vow, which, to be clear, I won't catch you if you do. I smiled, biting into the corner of a toast slice. Noted. By midday, the tiny bridal suite was alive with noise, curling irons buzzing, laughter bouncing off the mirrors, Spotify humming out a wedding playlist with more emotional whiplash than a soap opera. I let it all wash over me, half participant, half observer, as Rachel did a last tug at my dress zipper. "I can't believe this is actually happening," she said, eyes a little too wide. "I can," I said steady. "It was never not going to." Rachel gave me a look, half proud, half stunned. "You've changed, you know. Not just the hair and the designer flats. You walk like someone who survived something." "I did," I replied simply. Nathan's family filled the front rows of the ceremony space. His mom clutched tissues like prayer beads. His dad grinned like he'd won a bet. Friends leaned forward as the music shifted. And when I saw Nathan at the end of that aisle, nervous, handsome in a light gray suit, tie slightly crooked like always, I felt no weight, no ghost tugging at my hem. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was my own. Our vows weren't elaborate. We kept them short and true. His voice cracked only once when he said, "You've taught me what strength looks like in soft form." Mine only faltered when I whispered, "You made peace something I could reach for." People cried, of course, not over the florals or the dress or the Instagram-worthy sunset. They cried because they felt it. The rawness of two people choosing each other not because it was easy, but because it was earned. The reception was modest. Barbecue from a local place we loved, hand-painted signs pointing to cake, dancing, and hope. Kids ran wild. Elderly aunts tried line dancing. Rachel gave a toast that started with a joke about my stubbornness and ended with, "You deserve joy that doesn't come with a catch." And then Gloria approached. She looked older than I remembered, lines deeper, eyes duller. She walked slowly, without the sharpness I'd grown up dodging. She waited until no one was watching and said softly, "I'm proud of you." I nodded once, not unkindly. "Thanks." She lingered for a beat, like maybe she wanted more. I offered none. Later, under a canopy of string lights, Nathan and I danced our first dance. The song wasn't traditional. It was one he'd recorded himself. A slow acoustic version of an old Beatles tune, his voice trembling in parts. I rested my head on his shoulder, counting seconds, not steps. Somewhere in the middle of that song, I gave a short toast. I used to think family was something you were born into, but sometimes we build it. From friends who stay, from partners who don't flinch, from strangers who choose you, and when we do, it's stronger than anything blood ever promised. Applause rose slowly, not loud, not wild, just enough. That night, when the last guest left and Rachel had taken the leftover cupcakes for the drive home, Nathan and I returned to our apartment. It felt quieter than usual. No wedding clutter, no reception leftovers we forgot to unpack. Just us. I peeled off my dress, folded it over a chair. Nathan handed me a cold bottle of ginger ale and kissed my forehead. Today one, he said. To all the ones after, I replied. Later, in my pajamas, I stepped out to check the mailbox, just habit. Inside, an envelope. No return address. My name in familiar handwriting that tightened my throat. I opened it slowly. A check. $2,964.08. No note, no signature, just numbers typed neatly in the memo line. Balance. I stared at it for a long time. Not in anger, not even sadness. Just the strange silence of something finally finishing. Back inside, I placed the check in the drawer of our kitchen hutch. I didn't tear it up. I didn't cash it. I just let it sit there. Some debts don't need repayment. Some wounds don't need reopening. As Nathan turned off the lights and the fan hummed in our room, I whispered one final thought to the dark. This was never about money. It was about choosing myself. And I had. I do. Without you. Sometimes, the heaviest door you ever close is the one that leads back to people who once called you family. But standing in my kitchen that night, placing that check in a drawer, I knew I hadn't lost anything worth keeping. What I've learned is this. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reunion, and peace doesn't always come with an apology. We can grieve what we deserved and never received, and still move forward with grace. In a world that often asks us to give more than we get, protecting your peace is not selfish. It's survival. If this story touched a quiet part of you, I'd love to know. Feel free to share a thought below, or simply carry this with you, like a small light in your own story.